The reason behind this fireside chat is trying to put together top US investors and solid Italian scientists, because we think that there is a big opportunity here. In fact, we have great science, great scientists, and we are very, very competitive in terms of cost for preclinical work and clinical work. So Italy is becoming a great place for developing new biotech stories and new biotech startups, and we wanted to use this opportunity to enlarge this ecosystem. And we have a lot of partners. I don't want to mention every partner because we have a lot from Nucleate, from American Chambers, in Italy, Innovit, NASDAQ, the NIAF, the ISNAF, and many others. So, we can start. And I really appreciate the fact that we have our Italian consul in San Francisco that can open this second fireside chat. So Sergio, where are you? Okay, you are there. So please, Sergio.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm connecting from home and not from the consulate, so it's very early in San Francisco. Thank you very much, Pierluigi, for this occasion. It's a great pleasure for me to attend the second fireside chat Innovit for Life Sciences, the road to JP Morgan 24. And you mentioned the key point. Italy is growing very much as innovation hub, and life sciences is one of the largest factor of growth for us. We've been working very much in the past decades, and I think we can offer a lot to international investors. And so this is why we are here as Consulate General and the Innovation Hub, which tackling in a few minutes, to make our American friends, American investors understand that currently Italy is a place for innovation and is a place for companies in the biotech sector, health tech, digital health to invest in. So our goal as Consulate General, and we are participating in this road to JP Morgan 24, and specifically to organize an Italian side event during the conference here in San Francisco in next January, in order to make investors aware of these new opportunities they may find in Italy. And this is basically the work we do every day as Consulate General. And since the end of 2021, Ministry of Foreign Affairs launched this new structure in a new platform in San Francisco, which is the Italian Innovation and Culture Hub, Innovit. It's been a long process. My predecessors have been working on it to persuade the government in Rome to open a brand new place. It's not an embassy, it's not a consulate. You can understand that it's not easy for public administration to invent new startups, to create new startups like Innovit is. And so they decided to do it. And that's the place where we can make Italian companies, and we are talking about life sciences, so biotech and health tech, more visible to US investors. This is our goal, and we are ready to accompany Italian companies to match with the local environment, Silicon Valley stakeholders, and this is our job on a daily basis. So thank you very much, Pierluigi, and I welcome all the guests who are connected.
Thank you, Sergio. And I think that we are super lucky because we have the director of Innovit here, so he can spend a couple of minutes to and maybe he's exactly
I look forward to him.
Yeah, he's there. So Alberto, please.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, Pierluigi, and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are, everybody. I'm very happy to be joining this session, and again, thanks for working together at this Innovit Road to JP Morgan 24. I see many names that I already know. You probably have met me, or we have met during the many sessions at the JP Morgan conference the last few years, where in San Francisco, Italy has been consistently present with many side events since now. back in the days 2015 or something. So it is great that we're scaling our presence with this new concept and this new format, which is Road to JP Morgan. And Innovit, as our Consul General was just mentioning, is a new tool, a new platform available to Italian companies, especially in the life science business and industry, to connect with the US ecosystem, with the US innovation ecosystem, like obviously Silicon Valley. I will try to summarize really in a nutshell what Innovit is in terms of content, because it is a beautiful location, and we will meet you here. We have hosted already more than 40 events since launch 6 months ago.
Wow.
More than 3,000 people have visited these 12,000 square feet in the heart of San Francisco, where the best of Italy is meeting US investors. We have had several events with Cassa Depositi e Prestiti in his roadshow to Silicon Valley, or the Italian Institute of Technology to talk about technology transfer, and on and on and on. But Innovit is more and way more than a location for events. Innovit is most importantly a place where Italian companies can scale, can learn, can meet investors. And for this reason, we are organizing every 3 months a program for Italian startups. It is a full immersion of 2 weeks back-to-back sessions from 9 in the morning to 9 in the evening, where 30 Italian startups every 3 months can meet in 65 sessions investors, mentors, advisors. And it is already the second time we have organized this. In June, we have focused specifically on robotics, IoT, and cybersecurity. In March, we did focus on artificial intelligence. In September, we are now preparing, as we speak, the next cohort for clean tech and agrotech. And then we will end this year with the aerospace industry in December. With that, of course, my hope and my wish with you all, with Pierluigi and team and everybody, is clearly to start planning a cohort of Italian life science startups to be welcome next year at Innovit for another, let's say, acceleration program. I really cannot wait to plan on this. Also because, and with that, I will hand over to you, Pierluigi, the best part of Innovit and our acceleration program for startups is that we do involve a huge network of mentors and advisors, more than 100 every time. And many of them are from the local community. You were mentioning ISNAF as an example. Many of them are international, and many of them, they do this as a give back to our country. So really, I cannot wait to plan and design the next program on life science, whether it is digital health or biotech or medtech. We can work on that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Alberto, and we keep you busy. I'm sure that we will keep you busy a lot with a lot of initiative in the biotech space. So together with me today, we have 2 special guests. One is Mira Charusia, that is the Managing Director of Westlake Village BioPartner. That is one of the most active VC in the West Coast, but around the US, and also an investor in some European companies. And Sergio Brignani, that is the Scientific Director of the National Institute of Molecular Genetics here in Milano. So Mira, please, we would like to understand better who you are, and the characteristics, the details on the activity of Westlake Village BioVentures for our community. You see that we are more than 100. Good. Please, Mira.
Great. Thank you, Pierluigi, and thank you everyone for having me. I'm Mira Charusia, Managing Director at Westlake Village BioPartners. We're a Los Angeles-based early stage biotech venture capital firm founded in 2018. And so we're about 5 years old. We're currently managing about 850 million under management, and have built over 20 companies to date. So by early stage, what we mean is we'll do everything from new company formation And what we're really looking for when we're building those companies is obviously exciting science, great technologies, importantly, technologies that we believe have a very clear path to becoming differentiated medicines, and pairing those technologies with great people who can help build a company and move those technologies down that path. We work in pretty much all indication areas and all modalities. And so we don't restrict ourselves from that perspective. What you'll see us do is really look at a particular opportunity and say, in reasonable time and reasonable dollars from a venture perspective, can we progress this science into patients and get a read that we've truly de-risked the science and have demonstrated it can be a real medicine? And if we can do that very well as early stage investors, we believe that there will be later stage capital and others who want to join us on that journey in bringing the medicines deeper into the clinics and ultimately to approval. Our team,
do you use to lead, to be a lead investor, or you prefer to co-invest or to co-lead, or especially as an early stage investor, you like to make the big ticket, the big chunk in the company?
So we lead pretty much everything we do. Sometimes we'll co-lead, and we will typically do seed investments or Series A investments. And so the way to think about those two buckets is Series A investments could have been companies started and seeded outside the walls of Westlake. That's fine. We're happy to lead those Series A's. We will often find, one strong syndicate partner to come in with us. Sometimes that person will write an equal size check. And for our Series A's, we're really targeting a total of, $30 to $50 million in a Series A.
Wow.
To fund the company for a roughly 3-year time horizon and to progress that science to IND or potentially early clinical studies. So it's a capital efficient model. You won't see Westlake do $200 million Series A's with programs that may be in the clinic, 6 or 7 years away. We're really looking for capital efficiency and progressing programs to the clinic. And so our check size would be, 15 to 25 million, depending on the opportunity. For the seed investments, those are smaller checks, typically single digit, $1 to $2 million. Usually that is around a people first model. So we think about, great leaders in the biotech industry who are ready to become CEOs. And we actually fund $1 million for them to come work with Westlake and really build a company from there. And that can be finding technologies from universities. It can be finding assets from industries. Sometimes it can be just bringing a great team together with some great ideas and funding a Series A to let them go generate de novo medicines. So there's 3 ways we can do that.
I know it's great. We have a lot of discussion, especially in our ecosystem, about the development capabilities, no? The development capabilities, no? Since you start from seed round, and usually I think that you start to work with the researchers, with scientists, but people that are not super expert in the development of product from preclinical to the clinic. How you can support the companies in this part? Do you have your network of potential, let me say, CMO, chief head of development, or you believe in the original team that launched the idea?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we can do very well is through our team here at Westlake, every one of whom has drug discovery and drug development experience, whether it's on the early science side or the clinical side, can bring a lot of experience and insight to bear onto a new company. And importantly, especially when thinking of new technologies, a lot of those initial discussions are, if we have a great technology, what medicine do we want to make? And that's actually strategically where the earliest discussions and what Westlake can bring to bear really matters. And then beyond that, we have a lot of expertise and network of people that we can bring in to help in specific aspects of an opportunity and can help operationalize a lot of that science as well. And so, one of those resources are the people, the CEOs who come work on our platform, and their backgrounds can be scientific, early stage research, translational research. It can also be later stage clinical development and sometimes commercial. And so again, depending on the other opportunity, we can really bring various types of expertise into the company. And that's why we talk about a successful opportunity being the bringing together of teams and people who can progress great and innovative science.
Good, great. So Sergio Brignani, is, as I mentioned before, is the scientific director of the National Institute of Molecular Genetics here in Italy. First, we are curious about what you do and the science that you produce in your labs.
Yes, first of all, I'm an MD, PhD. I've 18 years experience in the pharma biotech area. My last appointment was from 1999 to 2006 in Chiron Corporation, San Francisco, as one of the 3 research vice president. And then we sold the company to Novartis. INGM, the National Institute of Molecular Genetics, has been created with what is, for the Italian European standard, a large donation of a wealthy family of 40 million euros 15 years ago. And is a good example of public-private joint venture, because we have a small but important economic endorsement of the Ministry of Health, and one of the major Italian hospitals, the Policlinico Ospedale Maggiore here in Milano, just donated the building where we are. So 60% of our research, of our activity, is on grant, also on competitive grants. 38% is institutional funding. Our research, we have a very strong bias on immunology, on human immunology. Yeah. And given my background, we have a lot of translational research going on. And in the last 5 years, we have recruited top people, like, for instance, I mentioned one, Antonio Lanzavecchia, who is considered one of the top human immunologists worldwide, who retired from Polytechnic in Zurigo from the ETH, and now is the head of the immunology program here at the National Institute of Molecular Genetics. So, given my background, I'm very keen on having on taking care of first of all protecting intellectual property of what we do, and then exploiting and creating value of our intellectual property. So,
how many researchers you have in your labs?
In the institute is 130 researchers.
Oh.
And 120 are working on human immunology program. And we're interested very much in oncology, in improving immunotherapy. I'll give you an example. And in infectious disease and autoimmunity, the other part of important part of works on immune response. So just to give you 2 examples of what we've done in the last 6 years. We've been very much interested. First of all, we always start with, it's easy to say, but it's important to remind that we start asking questions related to major unmet medical need. In the area of immunotherapy, when we started working on tumor immunotherapy, the immunotherapy was already, used standard of care for some tumors. And there is a major problem with adverse events, with autoimmune events. About 10% of people who undergo immunotherapy with ipilimumab and nivolumab nowadays had to discontinue therapy that for some of them is life-saving because of very strong autoimmune reaction, pneumonia, autoimmune pneumonia, hepatitis, colitis. So we focus on how to improve and to make safer immunotherapy. And in 2016, with one of my colleagues here, we started asking whether it was possible to identify some molecule on the surface of lymphocytes that are the target of immunotherapy, that are expressed only on lymphocytes when they are in the tumor microenvironment. So we took advantage of using the first single-cell RNA sequencing facility that we had here, and we identified a series of molecules that were present, for instance, on regulatory T cells, that are the suppressor cell you want to eliminate with immunotherapy or to neutralize with immunotherapy. We identified a series of molecules we patented. We published a nice paper in a top journal and created a startup in 2018. We made the Series A for 6 million euros. Oh. And we make a monoclonal antibody against one of these molecules that is our patent. And last year, in December, we concluded an exclusive licensing with Boehringer Ingelheim, that we announced after the Golden Power clearance in March this year.
Sergio, I think that we can enter more in the description, in the details about your spin out in the next question, because it's really interesting to see that somehow you brought your experience from California to Milano, and you found California here in Milano somehow. That is good. That is great. So Sergio, thank you. And Mira, I want to come back to you and understand your strategy to invest in US and outside US, because you mentioned me that we have done some investment in Europe, not in Italy yet. Please tell me more about your strategy outside the US.
Yeah, so Westlake, we're located in California, and primarily with some focus in Los Angeles in particular. And so if you look at our portfolio, 40% of our companies are specifically in Los Angeles. Almost all of the rest are in California. I did used to work at another venture capital firm called 5AM Ventures. And in that role, I did make investments in Cambridge, UK, as well as Zurich, Switzerland. And I would say, just personally from those experiences, I would say a lot of what you said resonates in what we learned about those opportunities, which is great talent, very innovative science, the ability to progress that science in a very capital efficient way, and actually very good investing partners in Europe. So in both of those cases, we invested with firms that are located in Europe. And so those opportunities, those investments were, 2 to 6 years ago. And so we've been tracking that, or I've been tracking that personally for quite a bit of time. And here at Westlake, we do have one investment outside the US in the UK. And so for us, obviously, most of our investments are going to be specifically on the West Coast, if not in the US. It doesn't mean that opportunistically we wouldn't look and find interesting opportunities outside the US. So that's sort of the difference between how I see it and how Westlake sees it.
No. One of the key points for you to invest outside US in Europe is to find a local partner, a local co-investor that can be close to the company, right?
Yes. So, I would say the reason why the 2 investments I did at 5AM were successful was they were both early stage Series A investments. The reason they were successful is we had strong investing partners that we knew and trusted, who were physically located very close to those companies. Because early stage companies need a lot of help, and that is something we can provide. And so if we can help provide that through a very strong syndicate, that is much more feasible. What we wouldn't do is try to do a seed or Series A investment for such an early company that's 8 time zones away, where it's very hard to maintain that tight connection with the team.
Okay, great. So Sergio, back to your story, because we like every time to invite in this fireside chat not only great scientists, but also scientists that co-founded company. And you started to mention before 1 or 2 examples. So please enter in the details, and especially on what you did for the growth of the company in collaboration with Big Pharma.
Yeah, okay. I can tell you about 2 startups we created in the last 6 years. One is CheckMab, that is the one that has made the successful licensing of the antibody. Another one is T1 Therapeutics, we created last summer. Both companies work on immunotherapy. We were very focused, and the CheckMab is developing therapeutics to eliminate the suppressor cells, the suppressor lymphocyte within the tumor. And T1 Therapeutics is working to rescue the effector cells that are suppressed by the suppressor cells in the tumor microenvironment. How we work? I mean, it's in reality we started looking for a second round of 20-25 million euros at the end of 21, beginning of 22 for CheckMab to have a phase 1 clinical trial. And we started a series of a roadshow de facto with European venture funds, and then we're contacted by 2 big pharma One, I can tell the name because the one that has closed the deal, that is Boehringer Ingelheim, and another one. They were interested in having exclusive licensing of the monoclonal antibody. And I mean, it was relatively easy, although it lasted 6 months. It was that easy because it was an easy project. We had developed an antibody that has some promise, or good promise, that will have a safer profile than existing immunotherapy. Cancer immunotherapy is considered as very hot area for big pharma because foreseen as one of the major area in terms of growth. And therefore, I mean, obviously, I worked first when I was younger in Ciba-Geigy and then in biotech in Chiron Corporation. So somehow I knew the code, I knew the words, I knew how to deal with them. But I mean, it was really not complicated in my experience.
Let us understand, you closed the great out licensing when you are a preclinical company, right? No, you are not clinical yet. Check my
It's not clinical. We're about to go, and the clinical development will be entirely done by Boehringer Ingelheim with our support for something we're still doing. And I mean, the deal is public because we announced in March. We had the total deal was milestone related 240 million euros up to phase 3 with an upfront of 10% or 24 million. And then royalties up to 5%, 5 to 6%, depending if we arrive on the market. So it's for the immunotherapy area.
Give us some color about the negotiation with the big pharma versus the venture capital, because you mentioned that
it's completely different.
A VC,
it's completely
at the end of the road, you find a big pharma on your
Okay, it was a completely different discussion because big pharma was interested in getting the antibody, getting all our know-how on this antibody, have exclusive licensing, and that's it. So they're very much interested in either promoting or killing as quick as possible. So with the venture, I mean, it was a quotation mark, a standard discussion for a clinical funding, a B series or whatever you want to call. I mean, for a phase 1 clinical trial, 2 trials actually. And it was going quite good. We didn't have any final answer, yes or no, but then when arrived the opportunity of the exclusive licensing, Boehringer.
Can we say that VC is the bad guy and pharma is the good guy, or both are the bad guys?
But only that bad guy. I mean, it's important to know what. It's important to know what are their appetites. I mean, what are their interests. I mean, it's I mean, it's not a way to say, but it's really, if you enter in their mentality, it's a win-win. I mean, it's we all want the same. I mean, obviously, we all want to be successful, and everyone wants to get the most benefit in terms of economic and financial. So.
And Mira, what is your relationship with big pharma? So the company that you are backed by your funds. When you see a good point for start a discussion with big pharmaceutical company, you try to postpone this moment to create more value, or you try to facilitate this discussion even starting from preclinical activity?
Yeah, so I think, we have a very productive relationship with larger biopharma companies. And, I think Sergio put it very well. The best, the best relationships offer win-win opportunities for everyone. And quite a number of our portfolio companies have done pharma business development deals. Some have been late stage clinical. Some of them have been early stage preclinical. And so I think, as we are building these companies and working with management teams, it's a different answer for each company. Some are ready to partner preclinically, and you find a great partner, and that great partner is not just supposed to bring capital, right? They bring expertise, they bring insights, they bring models, animal models, or other types of validation models that are not available outside of the company. And so the true partnerships leverage the strengths of both the small company and the large company to sort of progress that medicine as efficiently as possible. So it's a long way of saying, that there are lots of great opportunities out there for the right types of partnerships. There's also a lot of opportunities for the wrong types of partnerships. And this is why having boards and management teams that understand those nuances is very important.
You mentioned, the management team, the board. How is important from the beginning to have the right board of directors that can support the founders of the company, and what is the perfect profile that you have in mind for a startup company at seed stage or early stage?
So yeah, we as I mentioned, we're very people first, and so we believe, well, the line that I say a lot is, I've seen great teams take mediocre science and turn it into a great medicine. I really have, right? Even if it's just a pivot to a different indication, right? Understanding where to develop it, why it failed in the past. I've also seen mediocre teams take really, really fantastic science and run it into the ground.
Wow.
And so I do think that early on, having the start of the right team that understands the science, but more importantly, understands how to turn it into a medicine, that's what's rate limiting in our industry. We're not rate limited by innovation. We're not rate limited by the need for patients. We're rate limited by people who understand how to make a great medicine and build a great business. And so I do think that at the earliest stages, thinking about not the full team, you don't need a full team, but who's the starting team to help the founders translate that, that science is very, very important.
We are on the same page here. I mentioned before the importance of the development, because development is important from the early stage part, also in the experience of Genenta, because it's important to understand what to do and what not to do. Because sometimes the research, the scientists want to do a lot of experiment, but you are creating some problems if you are not in the mindset to develop a product one day. It's totally clear that the development part is the key part for every scientist.
Just to give you an example on this,
yes.
Because with Checkmap, the company that licensed the antibody to Boehringer Ingelheim, this development was very important. And what we did 3.5 years ago, we made a special consultancy contract with 2 people who were just retiring from BMS. They are the key people who develop immunotherapeutic antibodies in BMS, anti-CTLA-4, anti-PD-1. And having them on board in our technical scientific advisory board was essential, because these people had developed these antibodies, the first immunotherapeutic antibodies at BMS. They knew exactly how to do it, and they were very key people, though, in quotation mark, they were expensive, but were the best spent money of the company, because they brought a know-how that was really fantastic. So for instance, the second company was started just 1 year ago, T1 Therapeutics, with a completely different business, because we're going with antisense oligonucleotides and not with the monoclonal antibody. So it's a more advanced or provocative approach, if you like. But also there, I'm looking for key people that are already developing for clinical use antisense oligonucleotides. So because I think I agree 100% with Mira, it's essential to have on board that helping you, people who have already somehow the experience you're trying to build. Because if you build everything on your own, or with mediocre people, I'm afraid that obviously dumb luck is always a key factor. You need that's essential, whatever we do. But if to dumb luck, you have the very knowledgeable people on the area you are, I'm still convinced that in our business, that is very technical. Because once you decide what is the target, what is the drug, you need the people who advise you in the best way.
This is the key point. And let me say, yes, the head of development, the CMO with good experience are very expensive. The compensation is very high. But the key point is that they have done usually a lot of job inside big pharmaceutical company. They made mistakes and they waste hundreds of millions inside a big pharmaceutical company, but they have large shoulders so they can support that. And you pay that kind of experience. They make mistake with money of other companies, and now that you are a startup, you don't have the chance to have, no, you have just one chance to reach your target, and you need to find the right person, gray hair, that have done a lot of job in big pharmaceutical company and help you to avoid it, to reduce, let me say, the quantity of mistakes that you can do. Okay, thank you. I see that Paolo Rizzardi from CEO of Altea, maybe you have a question for Mira or for Sergio. Paolo?
Yeah, hi everyone. Actually, I have a question for both of you because I think what you said is very, very interesting. And actually, we drive a company is developing a gene therapy program for autoimmune disease on one hand, and a CAR T-cell program on the other end. We raised 17 million, 17, and we survived for 5 years. Now we are ready to go into the clinic. So we were quite cheap, as you said, in Europe. We are capital careful, let's say. We have also, in the founders of the company, a great experience in terms of translational research, because Alessandra Biffi is one of the founder, and together with me, with Pierluigi, with Luigi Naldini, we were involved in developing the first gene therapy approaches ex vivo. And we built also an experience in terms of putting together charity with the academic institution, manufacturing side, and big pharma. So in terms of translation, we have a track record also, not only in terms of science. So my question is, what are the elements, and I asked to Sergio as well to Mira, what are the elements, the crucial elements that becomes, really attraction for investors for a company like ours that now is needs to build a syndicate for a Series A, so in the range of 30-50 million to go into clinical development for two different indications using two technologies. But following what you said, actually, we feel that we are, ticking some of the hints because we have a track record in terms of translation. We have good science. We already achieved some milestones in the development, but still we have problems in terms of raising money, and not only in Italy, but also outside of Italy. So what are the elements that really could make for us a change in terms of becoming attractive for, international investors, as long as along with Italian investors?
Thank you, Paolo. Maybe we can start with Mira. Maybe Mira can sign a check right now, but please, Mira.
Yeah, I mean, without knowing sort of the details of the situation, it's hard to make too many conclusions. But I'll tell you generally what we try to do, right, as Series A investors, is ultimately we want to know. So the team is very important. Obviously, the quality of the science and the data is very important. And the reason I sort of mentioned several times that getting to IND or the phase 1 data in the clinic is very important. And it sounds like you have a plan to do that. What we want to really understand is, assume you get that IND, assume you get those phase 1 data. In fact, assume you get the phase 1 data in this environment. What do those data look like in a success scenario? And how does that compare to what else is out there, right? And I would say high level, you've got two very different opportunities in the oncology versus the autoimmune space. And the type of data that you'll need to generate in each of those spaces to de-risk, they're going to be slightly different questions, right? Autoimmune disease, you're looking at, I'll just give you a basic example. You're looking at a chronic disease, a high safety bar. You can tick down what an autoimmune disease product needs to look like. And from there, you backtrack into what you're de-risking. And the ability to articulate to an investor why the data set you will generate will be interesting and valuable in the competitive landscape from a modality and indication perspective is very important. Oncology is going to be a little different. Obviously, the tox profile, the dosing profile, all of these, what that phase 1 data set looks like that validates this is going to be slightly different. And the ability, again, to articulate that, and then why that would be competitive in the current environment and what's available to patients, not only what's available to them today, but what's going to be available to them by the time you make it to those later stage clinical studies or to market is important. So if I were looking at the opportunity, I would sort of be thinking about those two things and, what the path is. And usually the team's ability to articulate that and convince me of that feeds into sort of the quality of the team in as much as the technical ability and the demonstrated development capabilities.
Good. Wow. Sergio, anything to add?
Actually, to reiterate what Mira said, the people, the team, but also a clear development pathway. This helps a lot. A reasonable chance of success, clear endpoints. And also what I have observed is whether you are going after something that is in an area where there are already, in other words, something is tremendously innovative. After the Series A, if you want to go into clinical trials, there is, you need a very nice package, a very nice story, clear endpoints, because you don't have any benchmark if you are too original. So in the case of gene therapy, in some cases, there are already examples, but in many cases, it's the first time people are trying a new therapy. So although in most cases it's life-saving, you don't have a, but it's clearly completely different if you want to go after something that already has a story, although you have a new product, but in a given context, or if it is something completely new. I've observed that is very, I'm observing now with this new therapeutic use of antisense oligonucleotides, the skepticism around, because we're proposing something which is extremely new, and there is enthusiasm for the first Series A. In fact, we raised 2.8 million relatively easy, but then I already see that in the second round will be tremendously complicated. So
it's super clear. And Mira, you are in the key point for the venture capital world, and now we are seeing a lot of reduction in terms of investment in US, in Europe, in Italy, compared to 2020, 2021. We are 50%, 40% less in terms of investment. What is your view? Is something that is there? You see something that is changing around you, or the situation is tough and you think that it will be still tough for all the year or maybe longer?
Yeah, so, great observations. I would say, 2020 and 2021, you brought up those 2 years. They are very, very different than what was happening in 2018, 2019, 2017, even though we did see a lot of investment in those years and a lot of momentum. 2020 and 2021 were very, very different. We saw a lot of capital go to work, probably too many companies being built. And what we're seeing right now, I would say, is the natural consequence of that, which is we're figuring out which are the companies that are developing really valuable medicines and de-risking science and which are not. And so the capital has become more constrained and more conservative. Our view is that will continue to last for a bit longer as, the ecosystem figures this out. And we're seeing that, today, that strong companies can still raise financing. Strong teams can still raise financings. They are much more well-defined these days around true clinical endpoints or even preclinical endpoints if you're an earlier stage company than they used to be. I would say that's a good thing. But the burden on us, and I feel this often as an investor with my companies, is once we've gone through the Series A, the burden is on us to make sure that we are generating the right data sets and building the right teams that are investable even in a capital constrained environment.
Super clear, super clear. When Genenta went public was December 2021. So somehow now I can say that we closed the IPO window for almost everyone. It was one of the last IPOs of the year, but one of the last IPO in the biotech sector. Okay, we are running out of time. So my idea is to keep this fireside chat very executive, 45 minutes. And Sergio, our San Francisco consul, is there. So please, Sergio, give us your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pierluigi. You're always great, and it's so good to be here with you all. I just want to outline one thing that is coming out at the end of this session, this live event. We've proven once more that Italy's got huge talent as far as life sciences excellencies are concerned. And I'm talking about what Sergio shown to us, demonstrated by his excellent work, the incredible work he's been doing in Milan. So we got talent, we got good science, as Mira was saying, they're always looking for as investors. We got trial clinics, possibilities, opportunities in Italy, to some extent, much more than in the United States, because we have a different kind of system, public system, which is more coordinated than private system in the US. And that might be a positive factor for companies and startups to start with the trials. What we probably have to work on first, make Italy's opportunity more visible to US investors like Mira and Westlake Village Biopartners. So we are here working on this. And second, to strengthen our investors market, because we need to have larger investors in Italy and in Europe in order to be partnering and pairing with US investors once we persuade US investors to come to Italy to invest. So we had two very good suggestions from today's call. And I'm glad that we had so many suggestions by our speakers. And I thank them very much for this US-Italy connection on life sciences.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you all. We reached maybe 120, 122 persons there, and a lot of them are still there. And I see a lot of California, because Sergio Brignani spent a lot of time in California, Mira is in LA, Sergio is in San Francisco. That is great. So we are closing the gap somehow. We are bridging the gap. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. And see you for the next Fireside Chat in September. Ciao, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.